And Kevin Feige has revealed why Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania was selected as the start of Phase 5 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Quote, "We wanted to kick off Phase 5 with Ant-Man because he had earned that position," quote, Feige told Empire, "to not simply be the backup or the comic relief, but to take his position at the front of the podium of the MCU. Added Quantumania director Peyton Reed, "We're not running around the streets of San Francisco anymore. We're fighting one of the most powerful villains in Marvel history." Now, I love these comments. I loved every trailer that we've seen from Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. Almost said Avatar. Sorry about that.
There's too many movies that
Too
start
many.
with A.
Ant-Man, Avatar, Annabelle. I love the Ant-Man movies. They're not like top 10 comic book movies of all time for me, but they were fun time, good time, always put a smile on my face. And who doesn't love Paul Rudd? I mean, he's one of the greatest castings for that character I think that there could have ever been. One of my favorite castings in the MCU. And I'm really looking forward to this third one. It's also really nice to see that we're getting the introduction to this new villain that we basically only saw just a little glimpse in Loki, the very end of it, and it was obviously a very different version of Kang that we're going to get moving forward. But it's nice to see the introduction to Kang in an Ant-Man movie as opposed to the typical like Thor, Iron Man, Captain America, or even saving it for an Avengers buildup. They're introducing him in, kind of a rather smaller character, which I think is, it's a good decision. Kevin Feige stated multiple times that Jonathan Majors is his man, that the man that he's going to put the MCU on his shoulders from a villain standpoint, and that Kang the Conqueror is the perfect villain for the multiverse saga, and this is really where it's going to start off. Elinor, what do you think of all those comments?
Well, I think that Ant-Man is a good choice because we don't have very many of the OG Avengers or, MCU cast hanging around. Ant-Man is one of those older characters that we have, especially if Thor goes by the wayside, if Liam Hemsworth, is it Liam Hemsworth? Chris Hemsworth, one of those brothers, decides that they're done being Thor, then all we have left really is Ant-Man for now that we really recognize, other than Bucky and Falcon.
And maybe Doctor Strange, but even those guys were phase 2,
Right.
Which Ant-Man was, I guess, as well.
Right, so those guys will be the only ones that we really have left, and we haven't heard how much Doctor Strange is or isn't going to be in this, so we don't know if we're even going to see him as much. Whereas Ant-Man, I feel like we definitely have a for sure good sign that we're going to see him more often and he's going to be more prominent. And like you said, Paul Rudd is the perfect casting for this character. I haven't seen the Ant-Man movies in quite a long time, so my perspective on them might change, but I remember not really liking them as much the first time I saw them. What is that guy's name that just was like, it's truth serum? He's the one that cracked me up every time. That's the guy that I was like, I need...
Michael Pena's character.
Yes.
I can't remember his name.
But he was so funny. I just loved Michael Pena in that. I was like, okay, he wins. He wins the whole movie. And, I mean, I probably like the movie more now. But just when I saw it, I was just like, I'm not really into this. And...
yeah,
as you get older, perspectives change and humor changes and stuff like that. So, but I am excited because I saw these trailers and the trailers look really good. And I'm like, well, we're in freaking phase 5 already of the MCU. I can't believe that. Or it feels like just yesterday we just had the phase 3 come out. So, they're chugging along with this and I'm excited to see where they take it. Especially because Kang, I'm not familiar with at all. Like, I wasn't familiar with Thanos, and they made him intimidating, and I really enjoyed the character. So I'm like, how are we going to top that? So I'm excited to see where they take that and how Ant-Man's going to be the vehicle for that.
Or at least in the beginning. Yeah, I totally agree. I would say that you're not alone in your criticisms of the Ant-Man movies. A lot of people think that they're just kind of childish, that they're just cheesy. Maybe the humor doesn't work for them, and I get that. One of the things that I've heard over the years with the Ant-Man movies is that the stakes aren't really that high. And so they don't feel the sudden dread or the sudden urgency that you might get in some of the other comic book movies out there. But to me, it was actually a little bit of a relief, kind of refreshing at the time, because we had just gotten a couple Avengers movies.
Right.
We had already had the world at stakes, and in the first Ant-Man movie, the world is kind of at stake, even though they're fighting in a little girl's bedroom on a train tracks,
Right.
which is awesome. But I would say that the level of stakes in those movies are definitely more street level versus cosmic threat.
That's kind of
Which is,
refreshing.
yeah,
though.
it's kind of more of a heist movie at times. And I think that with this film, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, obviously we're going to get in a lot more into the quantum realm, and it's probably going to be a lot more cosmic. So it'll be interesting to see if they can pull that off, if they're able to keep Ant-Man kind of
Still grounded, maybe.
still grounded and make it as what's the word I'm looking for? Is it going to feel completely different than the first two Ant-Man movies? Kind of like
Right.
Thor Ragnarok was a reimagining,
Right. Like a
reimagining.
complete departure from what it used to be.
Right, and maybe that is what they're going to go with. Maybe Ant-Man is going to be less jokey in the future. Who knows? We'll see what they do. But what do you guys think? Are you excited for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania?